I am finally going to do what I promised myself I would never do. Well, here goes. Oh, Mike, you can do this one, mate.
Sure.
It's a crash that shook the world, one that was very nearly fatal for someone that is close to a lot of our hearts. And today, we're meeting the vehicle that was at the centre of it all, the Vampire.
Richard Hammond, the popular TV presenter, seriously ill in hospital.
Richard Hammond was involved in a serious crash. He's been taken to hospital by air ambulance.
Top Gear presenter suffered a significant brain injury when a jet cab vehicle he was driving crashed at high speeds.
40 years after being built, it still holds the British land speed record at 300.3 miles an hour, and it achieved that speed using this. This is a Rolls-Royce Orpheus turbojet engine straight out of a Red Arrow, and I've been told at full throttle, this thing guzzles between 7 to 10 gallons of fuel per mile. So if you turn that on its head, that's roughly 0.1 miles per gallon. Brutal. The car is 30 feet long, and with this thing creating 12,000 horsepower, it will get the car to 272 miles an hour, similar to the top speed of a standard Bugatti Chiron, in just 6 seconds. Now, the record sits at 300 miles an hour, but on that fateful day in 2006, Hammond was set to smash that number. Hammond recorded a 314 mile an hour run, but it was heading the opposite way up the airfield on the 7th run of the day that things went horribly wrong. The front right wheel deflated, meaning that Hammond had virtually no control over the car. It was down to this cage and his helmet to keep him alive.
Hammond lost control, the car veered off the private runway to the side and onto the grass. Vampire, the car that holds the UK land speed record, has been all but destroyed.
So, how did the car go from being a complete wreck after that crash to looking like this? Andrew, how do you go about restoring a very badly crashed drag racer?
Well, there's a few things you have to do. One of the things you have to do is the car was very badly bent in the crash, as you saw. The chassis was bent, the wheels were missing, the jet pipe was completely folded, the tail fin had been broken. So the first thing really is to get the rolling shell back and up and running again. So that was done by Sandipod Raceway, so the chassis was straightened. The roll cage had been removed to get Richard out, so it had been cut back, so this had to be remade and fitted.
Okay.
The bodywork was smashed, so new panels were made and fitted. And the engine had quite a lot of field inside it, so we had to get all the dirt out at the front of the engine.
So this is the original engine from the car?
From the crash, yes.
Right, okay.
So exactly the same engine, and you can see the oil tank where the car rolled over is badly dented. So
yes.
We've left that there really as provenance.
And this flange here looks a bit.
Yep, that also got hit.
And you originally ran this car back in the 80s. You weren't just brought in randomly. You ran and drove this car back in the day.
Yes, so Sandipod Raceway funded this car, and we built 3 cars. This was the first one was called Scorpion. Then there was Hellbender and Vampire.
Okay.
Hellbender was almost identical to this car, and they were built to race side by side. So that was back in 1980 when we had the 2 cars running side by side.
Okay.
And I was one of the drivers, Kieran was one of the drivers, so Kieran's here today as well.
Okay, so if you engineered this car back in the day, can you take us through how this all works? So we've got a jet engine here, but tell us how from start up to doing 300 miles an hour, how does this car work?
Well, so the first thing is, this is a jet engine from a Red Arrow.
Yep.
The jet engine's quite simple. It's got a big section here, which is a compressor section. That has 7 stages of compressor, and it takes in air from the front here and compresses it through this section here.
Okay.
It then puts the air into a combustion chamber. So there's 7 combustion chambers here, and each of them have their own fuel injector, as you can see around the engine.
Supplied by these. Are these the fuel tanks?
These are the fuel tanks. Yeah,
Right.
we got 2 80-litre tanks either side.
And that's full-on jet fuel from
Jet A1.
airliners.
Yeah, this came out of a 747.
Right, okay.
So a few months ago, this landed at Kemble.
Wow, okay,
So-
great. You've
And,
obviously got connections.
Yes. And then at the front, we have another fuel tank, which is
Right, okay.
a 50-litre fuel tank for the afterburner.
Sure, okay. The fact you're talking about an afterburner in a car is frankly amazing. But yes, okay, so we've got to the rear of this.
So what happens there is the hot gases come out of the combustion chamber and turn a turbine disc, which drives the compressor.
Yeah.
Just one of the interesting facts about this engine is that to drive the compressor at 100% takes just over 9,000 horsepower. So that's just to drive the compressor.
So is that just pure loss then? That's just
That's
loss?
pure loss,
So the,
yeah.
the 12,000 coming out the back, that is
Yeah.
after you've spent 9,000 just driving the compressor?
Yeah.
Bloody hell.
There's no direct equivalent for horsepower to pounds thrust. So what comes out the back of this is 5,700 pounds thrust.
Okay,
So-
and that's equivalent to literally a jet fighter?
Yes, it is.
Right, perfect.
So this is where the Red Arrow bit finishes, because we then took an afterburner from a Jaguar fighter
Okay.
and put on the back to boost the power of the Red Arrow engine. So this whole section at the back is an afterburner.
Right, okay. And that just takes the power through the roof?
Yes. So we designed this for drag racing, and drag racing means you need to start very quickly. So when the engine is running at 100%, it's putting out around 2,500 pounds thrust, which we can just about hold on the brakes.
Okay. And the brakes, I've just seen inside, there's a pedal. You're
big
literally sitting...
A big pedal, you're shaking.
Wow.
You're
So is the
pressing-
car creaking with all that thrust?
Yes, yeah.
Bloody hell.
And then when you're ready to leave, you put the afterburner fuel on, and when the light goes green, you press the button to light the afterburner, and you go from 2,500 to 5,500 pounds thrust just by pressing a button.
Okay, so 272 miles an hour in 6 seconds. What does that feel like?
It's like a big jolt on your back. So as soon as you hit the afterburner, you have a massive big jolt, but you're ready for it, and you're looking down the end of the track, and you've picked a tree on the horizon.
Right, okay.
And what you're doing is you're steering towards that tree or that object you can see on the horizon. You've got one hand on the steering wheel, you've got another hand here on the parachute lever. So if anything starts to go, you just pull that lever back, which cuts the engine, kills the afterburner, and puts the parachutes out.
Okay, well, let's look at the cockpit. Tell me how you drive this thing. What are all these controls in here?
So if you look at the controls here, we've got a master switch here, which is for all the electric circuits. So
Okay.
that's normally disabled. When you want to turn it, when you're driving it, it's full on. You have the big brake pedal there, and the first thing you do is press on that brake pedal. On this side, you have low pressure fuel. So this is very much like a fuel switch on a motorbike tank.
Yeah.
So to start it, you have that lever forward. We then get to this side, which is the high pressure pump, and we turn that on to put fuel into the engine, and then we go for a start.
Okay.
To start it, there's a starter motor which is bolted on here externally.
Okay, on this drive here.
Yes, on the
Right,
drive
okay.
here. And so you have a couple of mechanics with holding the starter motor as the engine starts to turn. The reason we have it here is so we can take it away, because the starter motor is very heavy, and we don't want that on board when we're racing.
Okay.
So we will turn the igniters on, signal to start.
Bloody hell.
Then the engine will start turning, and you'll suddenly hear the engine catch as it ignites.
Okay.
And then you'll wait for the engine to come up to idle speed, which will take about 5 to 6 seconds.
Okay, and then this is your steering wheel. Is this much use? Does the car move much when you're going at that sort of speed?
Well, whatever you're doing, you're not pointing in the straight lines normally, so you're going to have to do minor corrections as you go down the runway. There's also things like crosswinds, which you might need to correct. And, you know, no surface is completely flat, so there will be a little bit of steering, but not a huge amount.
Okay, so this car is now completely restored. It's in working order. what is the plan with it now? What are you going to put this back on a runway, run it, or what's the plan?
So the group who've bought it, their main intention really is to take it round to shows because it's the UK land speed record holder.
Okay.
And to raise money for charities. We will be doing engine runs, whether the car's tied down, and afterburner demonstrations.
Okay.
And sometime in the future, it would be great to have it running again, but we need to do some more work before it's ready to do high-speed runs.
Okay, and there is an event nearby in Bromyard, just up the
Yes.
road, where if people want to see it, this car will be running or just static, or...
You have to ask them, I don't know, sorry.
Okay, maybe running.
Yes,
We'll
maybe
see.
running, yes.
Okay, well...
I would love it to run. I will be driving it through the high street if they offered me the chance.
Okay, well, I've been told we're allowed to start it up today.
Yep,
Are you willing to take me through the process?
absolutely, yes.
Okay, let's do it. I'm petrified, but I'm sure it'll be great.
Good.
I don't think I've ever been in the presence of a car that quite literally needs to be strapped down to start it up. I'm not sure how much horsepower a chain is rated to, but we were about to find out. Andrew at the helm and having not run properly since that day in 2006, it was time to give it the beat. Having demonstrated just what the Vampire was capable of, Andrew took me aside for a pep talk to see whether I'd be up for having a go myself. It's not every day that you get asked if you want to start up a jet car. The history of this vehicle makes this much scarier than it normally would be, but I'm going to give it a go.
Are you okay?
Yep.
Good. Right, what I want you to do is put your finger on that, turn the igniter on. Okay. Go.
With my eyes fixated on the thrust gauge, Andrew gave me the signal to start creeping the throttle open, bit by bit. That initial flame was just the jet engine doing some self-igniting, which looks great but doesn't actually create big thrust. That comes with the afterburner. You'll see by my face, swing backwards. I hadn't moved an inch, and yet the Vampire had definitely made its mark.
It's hard to believe that this thing is classed as a car. When you hit that afterburner, you feel it smack into the back of the seat. And that was only 50–60% throttle. This thing, if you look at the power graph, the thrust only properly comes in at 90%. I can't imagine what that feels like going through your back. What an experience. What a car.
It's tough to know what to think seeing this car back in action. Restoring a car back to running order should almost always be a good thing, and maybe the call is to get this car back running and get it regularly doing what it was built to always do. But at the same time, it nearly took away someone that has entertained all of us for upwards of 2 decades doing what he loves. I think unless you've got millions upon millions of pounds to invest in research, development and engineering of such a car, that's really the only way you should be going for land speed records. It's not the call to take something like this onto a British airfield on a cloudy day and go searching for records. I just don't think it's worth it. Vampire's sister car, back in the 1980s, did unfortunately end up tragically killing its driver. The good news is that the people that now own this car, the Vampire Jet Car Owners Group, seem to just be going for showing this car off at car shows statically, kind of like what we've done today, and maybe the odd slow speed run to still show that the car moves. So in terms of going for land speed records, I think the time of this car is over. Anyway, back to Rovers and V10s.